So let's talk about, how do you decide if you need to do images or you don't need to do images when you're working with someone?
I think that images are almost always necessary, depending on the subject matter, obviously. But I think bad images are worse. I would rather do a book with no images than one with bad images. And I'm not talking about them needing to be shot by Annie Leibovitz or somebody like that. They don't have to be the most amazing photographs in the whole world. But if you're, as anyone who looks at video, and if we're talking to instructors here, and any instructor would know that if you're shooting video of a student and you move the camera angle from right along the target line to right along the toe line, say, what you see from the down the line angle is totally different. And if you have someone who's shooting photographs who doesn't understand those perspectives, what you're trying to show in the photographs might get lost. So there's two pieces to this. What you're trying to show needs to be accurately represented in the photographs, number one. And number two, you need to have an idea of what needs to be photographed and what needs to be left out. I think doing articles for Golf Digest or doing these books, the thing that I think teachers are the most surprised about are the decisions that get made, both when I'm trying to do it as the photo, as the editor on site, and as the designers do when they're designing the stories or designing the books. It's what gets selected as a photo that gets used versus gets left out. I think a teacher would default into using a lot of images, whereas what we do in Golf Digest or in a book is to default toward fewer images that show a much more specialized point, or a simplified point, I guess is the way to put it. I think you could easily get lost in showing tons of images, describing them all, and that's not automatically bad. But if you don't have a strategy for what images you're going to use, and the images aren't particularly strong, I think it makes the book a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. And it does give some volume to the book and adds some paging, which is a good thing. But there does need to be a balance between showing things effectively and matching what you're saying in the copy with what the photographs are. And there is the factor of cost too. I mean, there are teachers I know that know photographers in their area, and they trade out lessons for photography. I think that's a good way to do it. You've got spouses who are talented photographers. There's guys with gear systems who are using gears images as photographs in books, which I think is a super clever way to do it, because you can show really specific, golf instruction in an avatar form and output it any way you want. You can keep doing swings until you get what you want. I think that's a very cool way to do it, and a clever way to use technology that you already have in your studio without going out and spending a bunch of money on photography. But if you're going to hire a golf photographer, I mean, I think the minimum you're going to spend on someone who knows what they're doing is probably $1,000 or $1,500 to get good images that you're going to be able to use in a book.
Do you do a photo shoot first and select what images you want from that, or do you plan on, I need image X, Y, and Z, and let's go take those?
There's definitely a shot list. You go through and say, okay, in chapter 1, what 8 or 10 things do I want to illustrate? And then you go in with a shot list specifically saying, here's what I want to come out of this photo shoot seeing. And then once you take that and you take the output, you look at the photographs and see if they reflect what you planned in the shot list. And there might be times when you've done 10 or 12 images in the shot list and you use 8 or you use 9 or 2. But you definitely want to go into it. It's not just a sort of, hey, why don't we take a few pictures and see if we get something we like. The efficiency, if you can go in with a specific shot list, you're making the photographer's job easier, and I think you're making the teacher's job easier, because you know going in specifically what is going to be shot, and you're going from step to step. And for example, if you're shooting a down the line image or a face on image, you can group those images together so that you're not changing lights, changing perspective with the camera. You're doing all of the down the line pictures at the same time. You're doing all the face on pictures at the same time. You're doing all of the close up pictures at the same time, which can cut the photo shoot time from 5 hours to 2 hours. And if you're a teacher, obviously you're teaching lessons by the hour. If you can save an instructor 3 hours of time doing it, whatever their hourly rate is, you've just made that photo shoot cost that much less.